do that.
Okay.
Okay, Angus, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, just checking.
Just finishing up a few bites of
Hi,
lunch.
Angus.
Hey, Kat, how are you?
I'm good. I'm stepping in for Holly today.
Well, welcome to the party.
Why, thank you.
All right, okay, so I'll open the meeting and read the script. This is an open meeting of the Historic Structures Advisory Board. It's being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting bylaw to have all public meetings publicly in an accessible location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is provided so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting of the HSAB is convening by video conference via Zoom app is posted on the town's website identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to share your screen on your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now returning to the first item on the agenda. Before doing so, permit me to cover some of the ground rules effective for clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meetings. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Also, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking and speak clearly to help generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait till the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in the conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, we also need to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second by, thank you. All those in favor, Angus?
Aye.
Lucy?
Yes.
And I'm in favor too. Next, we don't have any minutes to approve, so we'll go right to Charlie Walters at 50 Orange Street. I see you're here somewhere. There you are.
Yes.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
So we have coming up.
So real quickly, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Charlie is just reaching out for some guidance. He's placing some AC units at his house at 50 Orange Street.
Okay, we don't have any, this is not on our view docket, I guess.
No, because our email was down from Thursday afternoon until this morning, so we were unable to gather all the information for you.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, Charlie, go ahead and tell us what you're looking for.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. What you're looking at right now is the rear of 50 Orange Street, photo taken from Flora Street, the side street that goes from Union to Orange. And our furnace died the day after Christmas, and we've been trying to get a new system in. And we're also adding air conditioning. And I spoke to Kathy about the process and a few other things, and she suggested I come to this meeting. So I'd like to thank her and thank you for including me. The issues I'm not clear about, and I obviously want to get these clear before I submit the application. If you look at the center, approximately the center of that photograph, you can see a wart sticking out from the rear of the house, and there's there's a brick foundation painted gray. And there's going to be machinery put on either side of that corner of the foundation, hopefully. And those machines are about 40 inches square and stick out 6 inches. Part of the reason, as we said, that I'm speaking to you today is I want to get some input before I put in my application. But also, there's kind of a catch-22 here, and I don't know how this works, or even if this is something you can comment on. If we build screening before the units are attached to the foundation, there may not be room for the workers to attach the machinery to the foundation. But if the machinery is installed before the screening is up, then technically we're in violation of rules and regulations. So that's part of what I'm here to talk with you about. But that's one area I want to talk to you about. And if we could see one of the other 2 slides or photos. In the center of the photo, you can see that there's a there's a drain pipe going from the roof down to where that door is open. But near the bottom of the drain pipe, you can see a gray line going to the right and then up and then to the right again and then up. Those are outside lines for the air conditioning unit. And they're covered right now by gray plastic. We want to, and I guess we have to, but we definitely want to cover that up with hopefully some kind of cedar covering. But again, I'm asking for your input. Also in this slide, although there's another one that's better, the third one. Well, you can sort of see from here, but if the other one turns up even better. The bottom left, you can see 3 meters attached to the house. Those are all coming off.
Mhm.
Nice.
And what, pardon me?
I said, good.
Yes. And directly below that, there is a new panel, I guess you'd call it, that has just been put there in the last few days. And again, we want to cover that up somehow, but I just want to make sure we're going to be doing it right. If we could go back one photo.
Charlie, can I ask a question? Is that photo taken from Flora Street?
This one is, or well, that one, yes.
Okay.
The one you're looking at now is taken from Flora.
Okay, thanks.
This is all on the rear of the house. None of this is visible from Orange Street.
Right. But very visible from Flora.
Where our driveway is, yes. As you're coming up the street, actually, you can't see a lot of this because we have arborvitae lining the property on the street. You can see the gray foundation under the wart that I was just talking about. If you look really closely, right above the foundation, you can see a tiny gray box. That is new as of a couple of days ago. In fact, I didn't even know it was going to be there. Again, I just want to make sure that the way we'd like to cover it up is going to be suitable for your purposes. So I'm just seeking guidance prior to the application and just pointing out that pointing out the catch-22 I mentioned a moment ago.
Okay, so the 2 different things, it sounds like the electrical area, the meters, it's that new vertical meter box and
Yes.
perhaps something below it. So are you planning to cover that with like a cedar box, or what's the plan there?
Cover it for sure, some kind of a wooden structure, yes, but I'm not sure whether there's something in particular you prefer to have, you know, a swinging door or an enclosure that can lift off for the electric company. I just don't know.
Charlie, if you look at the corner of Kevin's house at 83 Main Street, corner
Yeah.
of Main and Winter, there's
Yeah.
one on the side of his house. You could go over there and look at that. The meter dial does not have to show. But if you do want to see one with a meter dial that shows, go across the street and look at the Sussex. But it's a simple wood cedar type box that encloses the meter.
Well, I'll go look at both of those houses. Although I'm told that nowadays they don't have to actually see the meter,
No, they don't.
but I'll definitely go look at both of those houses.
But look at
Thank you.
Kevin's. It's a good example.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's the electrical component, and then back, you want to cover the condensers that are going to be visible in this photograph? Would they be next to the stair? Is that where they're going to be?
They're they're just to the right of, oh, I'm sorry, the condensers. They will be to the right of the stairs you see, one each on both sides of the corner of the foundation.
You know, generally speaking, we're perfectly happy with seeing a board fence of whatever height is necessary to completely conceal the unit. So a, 3.5 or 42-inch high board fence, cedar, maybe natural to weather. And if it's temporarily, if the unit has to go up and we see it for a little while, but we know you're going to surround it by a fence or a box, that's okay.
We were advised by the installer that they need more ventilation than a fence would allow. So Kathy sent me a slide. I don't know where the house is, but she sent me a slide of a lattice work enclosure, horizontal and vertical lattice work, which is probably what we're going to end up requesting because of the air circulation issue.
Well, if it's dense, if the lattice is pretty tight, I'm not sure we really want to see a lattice how about if you do like vertical boards staggered front to back? So there's maybe a 1 inch or 3/4 inch space on the boards facing the street, and on the back of the structure, there's another board blocking the visibility through. Angus, do you have any comments on that?
I do.
What do you think?
This is a little bit unusual because normally we, the houses are at grade. Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
So, usually it's more natural than this. So we're seeing brick, for the surface is going on instead of ground as it normally would, and full brick foundation that's been painted gray. Rather than the weathered gray shingles that are normally a backdrop for this. And so it's a little bit different. And you're right, the ventilation is tough to achieve with a tight board fence, but the lattice is going to leave things too visible. I think, Mickey, your suggestion for a board fence that has a bit of a gap, but not like a board's gap, and then a board full, it would be a board with a regular gap of about 1 inch or something. And then behind that would be another staggered so that you don't look diagonally through the boards and see the actual units. But you should be able to get a fair amount of circulation through that. Whether it's painted gray to match the foundation or whether it's gray, I guess it's for a painted foundation, it's, it's fortunate that it is sort of the gray that cedar would naturally weather to. So, it would be less maintenance and maybe look more natural to do the staggered boards. But also the line that you have zigzagging up the east side of your house, the back side, I would see if you could run that along the north side at the water table line, from the new units, and until you get to the corner where all these lines have reached to up on that second floor on the northeast corner of your house. I think that would get rid of the zigzag exposed from flora, and it might simplify just one line across and one line up.
I'm just trying to envision what you're saying.
So the piping would be behind the wart rather than going in front of it and across on top of it. It would just go behind it and back up behind it until it got up to the attic level where it's shown.
Charlie, do you have any elevations of this building that you could submit to in your application? That would be helpful for us to kind of communicate.
I'm not sure that I do have any. I can find out. But I'm still trying to envision what Angus is saying.
Charlie, if you look at what is exposed on the second floor to the right of the double windows underneath that half round window,
Yes.
the pipe to the right side if you imagine that that kept on going down behind your wart, down to the water table, down to the, where the brick began of the foundation
Yeah,
on the back side of the wart, and then came around to your new units rather than, you know, snaking around on the east side as you see it now.
That would be helpful.
but then what about what's next to the stairs?
Is that accessing anything other than where it's headed upstairs?
No, I was talking about down, I was talking about the line that's two rows of shingles above where the shingles begin.
Um,
It looked, from this angle, it looks as though it's coming out of the drain pipe, which obviously it's not, but that's what it looks like with these shadows and from this angle.
Charlie, what does that go to where it meets the drain pipe?
Some kind of machinery inside the house, newly installed.
Charlie, is there any way that we could get a photograph of what's going on behind that wart?
Yeah, I can do that. We actually don't own that property. The property line is just about where the house is, but I can get around on that side and do
Yeah.
something.
It looks like the pipe goes all the way up here as
Well,
well.
That's the drain pipe. Oh, I'm sorry.
This one,
It's the drain pipe and the,
right,
Right.
Oh, so you're
Right.
accessing two areas
do you see that guy?
with that
There-
pipe.
Their
Sorry.
eaves, they go up to the eaves where the
See?
half moon window is. There's machinery on both sides of the top floor of the structure.
I guess what I was suggesting is to just get rid of the one that goes over your back entry and cuts across over your wart, and have that come around from the back side rather than over the top and down the front side. And if you have to access the one next to the drain pipe, then maybe that could, you know, meet up with the units from underneath the deck and across the south side of the wart.
You know, Charlie, it's hard for us to, without seeing the whole picture and understanding what's fully going on, to sort of design the location of this pipe for you and your contractor. But the way you have it now really isn't good. It should be in a different location. So I think we should look to you for another creative solution to where that pipe could go.
All right. Okay, there's obviously some way to get it from the side of the wart we can't see to over by the drain pipe. It's going to have to come down. Well, I think there's a way to do it. Yeah, I say that without talking to the installer, but I think there's a way to do what I think you're saying.
Yes.
The point is to get the part that's above the door,
Mhm.
that right angle, that 90-degree angle section
Yeah.
is what you want to get rid of.
Yeah, that's not appropriate.
All right.
Yeah. And Charlie, for the fence, there's a plank fence on the side of the Basket Museum. And then
Oh,
if
all
you
right.
want another example of a plank fence, go into my side yard in town. And you can see a fence for AC at basement level.
All right. Since the condensers, if I've got that term correct, since they're going to be built on the right angle of the foundation, one of them is very visible from Flora Street and the other one is not. In other words, one's parallel to Flora Street, one is perpendicular. I suppose that we could use the same fence design for both sides of the foundation.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I don't know if you all see this picture. This is out in Tom Nevers, actually.
Yep.
This is what I had sent Charlie as an example.
That's right.
That here's the lattice. And then that was the cedar coming up the line sets, but
Mhm.
that was kind of a creative way of, but that's Tom Nevers, but
In a more rural setting, I think that's more appropriate.
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, but here's the lattice anyway. So just to give you guys an idea, which I'm sure you know anyway.
I can't say I'd be thrilled to see that on Flora Street.
Okay, well, eliminated from consideration then. That won't be part of our application.
Charlie, why don't you see if you can get a photograph of the backside of your house for us? And then go look at the examples of the meter boxes and the fencing.
Well, the photos you've been seeing have all been the backside of the house.
No, I'm talking about from your neighbor's yard. You know, where if the pipe from the second floor went straight down as Angus recommended. Yeah, behind what's going on behind that wart.
Okay. Okay. I think that side of the wart is in effect an extension of the rest of the house, but I'll get a photograph of that and so you can see it.
Yeah, it could be that it goes straight down and then into the foundation.
Yeah, well, I'll get a photo and send it to Kathy.
That'll be good. That'll give us more information to help you with next time we see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Charlie, for just talking about it, it's helpful to have some sort of plan, you know, an aerial view looking down of, you know, where the units are oriented. My understanding of what you were talking about was that both units would be like side by side to the east of that far east bump out. But when you talked about one being
Either side
perpendicular.
of the corner,
Um,
on either side of the corner,
Oh, so one on the south side of the corner and one on the east side of the corner.
correct.
yeah, I mean, if Charlie, I don't know when you bought that house, but if you guys bought that for
1984.
okay, so, I mean, you don't have plans. What you could do, I mean, I would be happy anyway, is if you just tape out on the brick where the AC units or the proposed fencing would be.
All right.
If you do it in a bright color, you know, blue painter's tape or something like that. I don't know
Alright.
how the others feel, but I would be satisfied with that.
Yeah, that'll be helpful.
All right.
And as
And
Angus
it would be
said,
good for you.
if you have a site plan to bring in also to show us some plan view of where things are going,
Okay.
that'll help.
Because at some point you'd have to like make a formal application that will be reviewed and approved by the HDC. And then that's when once it's approved, then that's when you can put in the machinery. But, you know, then you have to have the fencing, the screening around it before you get your CO, you know, before you get signed off on that permit. And so there's a window there that it's not like it's, as soon as the equipment goes in, the fence has to go. I mean, it has to go in as soon as you can. But as Mickey was saying, there is a window of time as long as you have approval for the screening, and the screening happens before they do the inspection.
Well, that's
Right.
the
And
catch
that-
22.
yeah.
That's the catch 22 I was referring to earlier. I know the HDC is, or I'm told the HDC is backed up a bit now. I mean, ideally, we would have the machinery in before the screening because, as I say, we have not had central heat in this house since the day after Christmas. It's livable, but it is not comfortable at all.
Charlie, technically, you have to get HDC approval before you do any of this work. You know, so
And if I may interject, Charlie, or Mr. Chair, sorry, through you, I'm the one who does the inspections, so I'm aware of the issue. So as Angus said, that there will be a little bit of a lag time, so.
yeah, I'd suggest you just get the HDC application in as soon as you can. I think the process will work itself out as you go through it. So I think I would just get it in quickly so you're on the next deadline.
Well, I know the process will, you know, proceed in all due time, but you know, as long as we've gotten this far, my worry is having the work stop because the screening hasn't been approved. And I've got to take the blame for this.
As I said,
I realize that, but we'd like to have some central heat in this house.
right.
Would you like me to answer that?
You please.
Sorry, so I didn't know that was one of your concerns, Charlie.
Well, that was the whole concern about the timing because
Yeah, well, I mean, if you put the application in and you install the AC units, it just has to be, the screening has to be up by the time you sign up for an inspection. So it's, the onus is on the applicant to do that. So once you sign up for an inspection, I go out and the screening should be in place so I can inspect it. So
But if,
that's,
well, this goes back to one of the things I said at the start of the meeting. If we put in the screening before the condensers are installed, there may not be enough room for the installers to do the installation. If the condensers go in before the screening is there, then we're in violation.
That's okay.
yeah, that's, that's okay. That's fine.
So
You have to do the
continue with-
work, and then when you finish the work, then you put the screening up.
Right, but we can go ahead and continue with this work, even though the application hasn't been approved by the HDC.
No, you,
That's my concern.
Charlie, in general, work doesn't begin until you have the approval.
Charlie, why don't you and I continue this offline after, the meeting, so we can
Okay,
touch base and circle back.
do you want to call me or how should we do that?
Yeah, so-
Okay. All right. Today?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
thank you.
Is there anything else I need to know right now?
I think, yeah, get in touch with Kathy and she'll help you get through this one.
All right. Well, thanks for your help. I don't know how I can sign out of this because all I'm seeing is you, Mickey, and the photograph. I'm not seeing myself, so I don't know how to get out of the meeting.
Down at the bottom right, there should be a leave button. If you click that, you'll go away.
Okay. Thanks, everyone, for your help.
Sure, good luck.
Okay, Charlie.
Thank you. Those were great suggestions, Angus.
Okay, next on the list is 14 Lowell Place. I think I saw Mark. There you are. Hi, Mark. Mark, do you want to make some preliminary comments? We're all pretty familiar with this project.
Right, yeah. I just want to introduce myself. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mark Norris. For those who don't know me, my family and I were longtime year-round residents. We submitted this application back in September, and we're eager to get moving through this HTC process, and so that we can start this. And we do intend on living at 14 Lowell. So we've been waiting a little bit, and we're trying to do what we to get through this process, what we need to do. I'd like to just point out that we observed the concerns of the abutters in the HGC regarding the height and the overall size of this project. And I'd like to point out that number 3, number 4, and number 10 Lowell specifically maximize their allowable ground cover and have exceeded it. One of them has exceeded it by nearly 10%. Additionally, the houses are between 24 feet 6 inches and 26 feet 4 inches in height. So respectfully, the 14 Lowell we're applying for right now, it falls in the same range of the proposed height right now of 26 feet. I think it's also important to point out that half of the proposed structure right now is a single story with a ridge height of under 18 feet. I'd also like to point out that our neighbor's house, 12 Lowell, Ms. Rakoff, she's spoken many times at these meetings. Her house is 54 inches deep, while ours is 14 Lowell is 54 wide and 61 deep, but it's on a 10,000 square foot lot. So we've taken a lot of this information and the feedback from the commission, and we've used it as a basis for our revised plans. And as you can see coming up, we've made significant changes that have addressed both the length and the height. And we feel it falls within the context of the scale of the neighborhood with what's existing. And my hope is that it reflects what you've asked for, the changes that you've asked for. And we'd really love to get an approval going into HDC, or at least your blessings, so that we can hopefully get an approval at the next HDC meeting and be able to move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up to the board. Anybody on our, oh, Matt, you want to make a comment?
Just to reiterate, you've seen I just wanted to acknowledge that we've kind of taken that rear long telescoping, 1-story element and basically removed it. That would seem to be the consistent issue that the board, or probably the final one that they've kind of honed in on. And we've kind of taken that section of the program, basically moved it to, and I think this is actually one of the HSAB's recommendations about potentially moving some of the program around. So I just want to make sure everyone's up to speed in terms of the revised change from the last time that you've seen it.
Mhm. Okay,
Mr. Chair, if I may,
sure.
through you, just so you all know, I did receive an email right before this meeting started, and I didn't have a chance to forward it to you individually or to Matt, but there is an email
Who's
from
Kathy? Yeah.
Victoria Rakoff. So it came in right before the meeting today.
Is it regarding the latest submission?
Yes. Yes. So,
Is it?
and I just recently, I got it right before the meeting started, so I hadn't had a chance to forward it to anybody. So I just wanted to let you know that it's right there.
Hopefully it says, great job. We fully support this.
I know.
I'm guessing by the length of it, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
All right, none of us have had a chance to look at this. So Kathy, if you can blow it up a little bit, I'll start. I think we should read it.
Sure.
I'll read it out loud.
Oh, do you want me to read it out loud to you?
Sure, yeah, you would do
Okay,
that.
let me find it again. And she is at the meeting too. Victoria is.
Oh, there she is. You're right. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just closed it out.
Well, maybe why don't we ask Victoria to just
Okay.
comment about it instead of reading the letter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to do that.
Great.
Hang on, I'm just going to turn on my video so I can see you all too. So, speaking to both the owner and the architect, I do really appreciate the changes you have made, and I do definitely prefer this design, and I'm incredibly grateful for the change of the length and bringing it more in keeping with sort of the length of other homes on the street. So I'm very grateful for that. I really appreciate moving a 1-story portion up to the front, which for me just feels much more in keeping with the buildings around it, and it's more visible from Lowell Place. And I also did appreciate the fact that the whole building moved a little further back on the lot. It just feels a little more spacious around the home, and that was great. So, there were a few points in the letter that I do see differently. So specifically, I feel still like the living space of this home is significantly bigger than other homes on the street. It's about 2.5 times the average square footage of the houses on the street. I do understand you're on a bigger lot, as is my home, as is 8 Lowell. And it's just a concern for me that we're looking at such a big house. I did also want to correct some issues about the footprint of my house. It is still significantly smaller than was represented. It's 683 square feet smaller than the home that's proposed. Be that as it may, it's just, again, to the point of this house feels big to me. There were points about green space that I just see differently. It is true that some homes on the street have used their lots to the fullest. I agree with that. There are also at least 2, mine and 8, that have preserved tremendous amounts of green space on lots that are actually bigger than the 14 Lowell lot. There were some comments made about how all the homes on the street have made large improvements, second floors, dormers, and additions. They've maximized their space. There was an addition of about 440 square feet added to my home before I purchased it by the prior owner. And I have no dormers. I have no second floor. And there is no way that I have maximized the space on my over 13,000 square foot lot. And I believe the same can be said of 8 Lowell. So again, it's just speaking to the nature of the street. The owners also stated that the home as proposed is only visible from one particular spot on Barnabas Lane. And I still have trouble understanding how it is not visible from Lowell Place. It's bigger than the home behind it, than the home in front of it, and taller than the home in front of it. So as best I can understand, it will show both around and above that home. And finally, there was a comment about wanting to preserve the historic character of Lowell Place, and I do believe that they want to do that, and I do appreciate that. But I am concerned about the front, the house on the front, the original 14 Lowell. It's a very small home. I've been in it many times, and I guarantee that whoever purchases that home is going to want to add on to it. And I just worry that if, there will be some limitations, obviously, because of lot size, but the height will go to whatever the height of the house behind it is. And it just feels like those at 26 feet, that will be significantly bigger than, or taller than my home and 10 Lowell, which are the two houses that are in direct view of 14, what will be A and B. So those are my comments. I really want to state that I would love to welcome the Norris family to the street, and that I would love to have someone living there year round. That would be wonderful. And like everyone else, I'd like to get this done. So, and come up with something that works for everyone. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Anybody else in the public want to have a comment regarding this application? Probably not. So board members, anybody want to speak?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm Jeffrey Marsh. We owned 10 Lowell Place.
Okay.
Okay, I agree with a lot of what Vicky says. I mean, I'm certainly welcome the Norrises to the neighborhood. And this revision is a lot better. I absolutely agree with that. But I basically have 2 points in looking at building with Nantucket in mind, and specifically goals for construction in the old town, which states as a goal to make certain all new buildings are compatible with the buildings adjacent to them and contribute to the overall harmony of the street. This 14 Lowell, to me, just that doesn't seem to comply with that. It's a massive house. And secondly, when we did a revision in our house in 2002, Val Oliver did the design, and the HDC required us to make substantial revisions because, quote, our house was too complex and not keeping with other houses on their neighborhood. This neighborhood is bungalows. They're 1,500, 1,800 square feet. 14 Lowell is just not in keeping with the neighborhood. So I would like to urge to have a design appropriate to the street, and as it says, to the harmony of the neighborhood and the overall harmony of the street. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mark, if you want to respond very quickly, please.
I just want to say thank you. Nice to meet you, Mr. Mr. Marsh. His house is 24 feet 6, and out of the allowable ground cover, he only has 8 feet left of his lot. I'm in the back, I'm on the back of a dead-end street behind everybody else. From Barnabas, there is an approved house that will someday be built on Barnabas. So from that side, it probably won't even be seen. So as I feel like I'm in the back of all these giant houses, and I'm at 26 feet while everything else is 30. And on the other side, they're 24 and 6. So we're just talking inches. It's very close. We are very close, but we've been here a long time, and we hope this is the last time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Okay. Again, back to the board members. Is anybody interested in commenting on this one? Lucy, go ahead.
I don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood.
Do you want to be a little more specific?
It's mass. It's a street with bungalows. This is not a bungalow.
Okay. Thank you.
Mickey, it's Jason. May I say something?
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Please.
Not very much. Hello. Sorry, I had to come and go because I didn't realize I was logged in via work Zoom. I agree with Lucy. I mean, it is a street of really wonderful little bungalows, and this does not, unfortunately, look like a bungalow in any way, shape, or form. It's just too big.
Yep. Angus or Brooke?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I agree with what's been said. We've seen a number of different designs that are perfectly desirable designs, but not for this location. There's so many places on the island where you could build a house like this and it would be perfectly appropriate. But as has been said before, this is a street of bungalows, and anything working towards that and reviving that, I think, is would be much more welcome than something of this design and scale and massing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Angus. And Brooke, do you have anything? Brooke, you there? All right, maybe not.
I know he was having connectivity difficulty.
So my thinking about this is that I basically tend to agree with the rest of my board is saying. I think this is a pretty big building for the street, and yet percentage-wise, it's in terms of maxing out ground cover. I think that's, it's hard to tell how big each lot is. So I think instead of looking at percentages of ground cover available or lot area available, you need to look at the actual building size, and this is definitely on the larger size of any of the buildings on the street. So, having said that, this house really isn't directly on Lowell Street. Lowell is the address, and the driveway leads right down to it. So it's clearly a Lowell Street house. But it's off the street a little bit. So I'm willing to give it a little bit of leeway, a little bit in terms of the size. But, I think the design and the style, I think, really should kind of comply a little bit more with the nature of the other architecture on the street. And this is a nice looking house, but I'm not sure it really relates to the other houses directly on Lowell Place. So I'll leave it in terms of that, but I also want to make a couple of specific comments if this design continues to go forward as it is. Looking at this elevation, the east elevation that you have on the screen, I think that this could still come down a little bit, and it would help the whole mass of the building. And especially, I think the plate height of the main mass facing us right there on the east elevation, I think that plate could drop a foot or so, and that would put the gutter line, the eave, right like at the meeting rail of those windows next to it. And now, Kathy, if you could go down to the next set of elevations. Well, how about the other side? Yeah, there it is, the north. If you drop that plate that I was just referring to, you can see that now the gutter line, the eave, would intersect the window right next to it in the middle of the window at the meeting rail. And that's one of those criteria that the HDC has tried to stick to. I know John McLaughlin has always been very adamant about that particular eave line meeting the meeting rail of the window, and dropping the plate would accomplish that. And I don't think it really will affect your floor plan much at all, since most of those rooms are within dormered areas. So I think that's achievable without any real loss. My next comment is that middle mass of the building, that middle section. It's broken up and it's dropped a little bit from the main ridge, but it's not nearly enough. It reads from a distance as one long, section connected to the front. And so I think ideally that middle section, the ridge and plate should drop, a couple feet at least, just to really significantly separate it from the front part. And my last comment about this is visible here too. It's those shed dormers. The roof pitch on those shed dormers is a 7 pitch, which is much steeper than it needs to be. It causes that shed roof to completely dominate the roof plane. And that's another thing in building with Nantucket in mind, is that we don't want the dormers to obliterate a roof plane, which to me these do. It just overwhelms it. So if you drop the pitch to a 4 or 5 pitch or something similar to that lower shed roof to the right, the roof sections would be much smaller and less dominant. So those are my comments specifically about this design. Getting back to the overall massing, I think I do agree with the rest of the board. I wish this building were smaller and more in keeping with this general size of other houses on Lowell Place. So I'm going to open it back up to my board. If anybody else wants to make any further comments. And Matt, go ahead. Matt, you're muted. Did you want to talk? You're not talking?
Thank you. Sorry about that. Sometimes there's an echo. So I just wanted to, so one of our goals here is we just want to, get this thing approved. This will be the 7th time we've been before the board. And so we're looking for some more specific detailed information. And I thank you for the information that you just provided us, because that'll certainly be helpful. So to drop the, just to say that it's too big and it's not in keeping, we need more information than that. And but I think that the information, Mr. Chair, that you've just given us is great, because I think we can, certainly work with that. Sorry, I'm at home. But as far as like the bungalow style, the one thing I would say is, if must be familiar with all the structures on the street, I certainly am at this point. And the term I would say to call these bungalow style, I mean, again, I don't want to get into an academic debate about what's bungalow style and what's not, but I would say that it's definitely a Nantucket bungalow style. And having said that, studying some of the earlier examples, the detailing is pretty simple. I mean, the pitches are fairly shallow, but in terms of quote unquote bungalow style details, I just get a little thrown off when everyone talks about bungalow style, because I don't think that in the traditional sense these houses fit that definition. They're fairly austere in terms of their level of detail. There's not a lot of wraparound front porches, and if there are, they're added at later dates. So I think that if you study the existing houses on that street, they have they're fairly inornate. And so in terms of like our massing schematic here, we have two gables on the street facade. And I think also, Mickey, your point about this building does not sit on the street. So when we talk about the street and the impact of this structure on the street, it's not on the street. So, and that's kind of that's why I think a lot of this has kind of caught us off guard. We actually thought that because this was at the end of a road that is literally at the beginning of Matticat Road and at the very periphery of the core district, it's right on the periphery. And on top of that, this is a structure that is behind a lot. So to say that it's impact about the street, I just don't think is accurate in terms of, I understand the spirit of what you're saying, but the truth is this structure will not sit on the street. I think that if you made your way down there and you looked down the driveway, you would see probably, the secondary additive mass portion of the structure, which is a 1-story piece. It's not, that front lot's going to get, built at some point. And I know it'll be held to the same level of standard that this lot is. So one of our goals, what we really, really want from you, which would be very helpful, is specific, suggestions in the same way that Mr. Chair, you just did, because that's very helpful for me. And we can certainly work on dropping the plate, maybe making a little bit more of a clearer break between the primary and the secondary mass. But beyond that, when I hear the comments from the other board members, to me, it sounds as if it's just like, we don't like it and that's it. So I guess if you could all tell me, what about it is problematic? Is it size? Because the way we calculated the ridge height of this structure is in keeping with all the other structures on Lowell Place. And in fact, it's not the tallest structure. It falls right there in the middle. So in terms of height, it's right where it needs to be. So I don't think, lowering it anymore I think it's holding it to a different standard than the rest of the structures on the street. And then as far as footprint is concerned, whether or not someone's living room is bigger or, is big or too big, or by your standards, that's kind of a more challenging concept to digest, specifically because it's behind the main mass of the structure. And again, I think minimally visible. Now that's the one thing I would say that, this is all about visibility, from a public way. And again, I think Lowell Place, number one, is not a very highly trafficked road. Number one. Number two, it's at the end of the road. Number three, it's actually behind it's behind another lot. So with that, I just say thank you. We can work on some of these changes, but I would really appreciate if other members could just be a little bit more specific if they have time to tell us what issues they have with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
May I speak to that? This is Jeff Marsh again.
Go ahead, Jeff.
One, I'm just using the term bungalow as a small house, as a definition.
Right.
And the street and the houses on the street are bungalows. Secondly, as you walk down the street by the Rakov's house, you can absolutely, because the Rakov's is a little bit set aside and back, you will be able to see this house with no problem whatsoever, especially over a one-story house bungalow in front. So I would just keep that in mind. And again, this house is just not in keeping with the houses on the street. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I
Mr.
think
Chair, may I just make one point as well? This is Victoria Rakoff.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Victoria. We'll try to make it quick.
Absolutely. My point is just that while this house is, at the end of a dead end, there are other divisible by right lots on the street. And whatever house goes up here is likely to determine the size and shape of those homes. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And
Sure.
Mark, another quick one, please, and then I'm going to cut this one off.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to say that 3 and 5 are a typical bungalow. They're a small house because they're on a very small lot. But if you want to take of how they look, they're very similar to what we've just proposed. And we are a larger lot, so proportionate to what we're building. If it's a small house, it's because it's on a small lot and everyone's built to the maximum level. We could build to 3,000 square feet and we're only proposing 2,000 on this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I'm going to see, does anybody else on the HSAB have anything else to add to this?
Yes, Mickey, I think your comment about the dormers was spot on.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have one more comment
Sure.
I'd be happy to add as a suggestion, and that is that bungalows, a lot of the time, the gable is running parallel with the front of the house, the road. And so this is a gable forward, and there are plenty of bungalows that are gable forward, but the pitch is more like a 6 or a 7, maybe an 8 pitch. And it generally starts not more than the first floor plate. They're generally dormers, and this is kind of an exception to building with Nantucket in mind, where dormers often dominate the roof. But that's starting from a first floor perspective. So a lot of the first floor, or rather the front, if you have in this case, a gable forward, that plate would drop much lower than I think would be functional for your design. But if you turned the front gable and ran parallel, I think that you could even get the same height, the 3 same second floor windows with a shed dormer that went across there, and you wouldn't feel all the height that starts from the heads of those second floor windows up to the peak. And then that way the back gable could run into that, maybe at the height you're showing it, and be screened so that there's really more roof forward rather than gable forward. But I appreciate you taking the suggestion of changing the plan to more of an L and reducing the size of that southeast corner as you have. It really was just starting with something that didn't look like it fit into the neighborhood and trying to get it that square peg into a round hole. So I can feel your frustration, and but it started out as a style that just wasn't appropriate for that location. That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thanks, Angus. I'm going to say, unless there's anything extremely important to add to this, that we've probably been through enough here. You all know that we're not going to vote on this. It doesn't, we don't approve really anything. We make recommendations. So we'll compile our recommendations and you'll be hearing them more directly at the regular HDC meeting.
Yep, we appreciate that. Like I said, I think that the board, they lead off with your comments. So if they're strikingly negative, they do have an impact. And so to what extent, that they do have an effect. So that's why we're here. So appreciate all your time and feedback. And, what we might try to do is, and I'll talk to Mark about this, but see if we can't. Can I just also ask that if we had made some of these changes and we're able to present them to the HTC prior, I guess there's really no way of getting some feedback, from the board to that before that meeting. But anyways, we're going to see what we can do and go from there. So thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Thank you all for attending. It's been helpful. Okay. We're moving on to the next one, which is 13 Union. And did I see John? Are you here for that? If you are, you're muted.
Okay, does that work?
Yep, you're good.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the board.
Hi. Did you want to make a comment?
I had been to this meeting once before, unfortunately was unable to attend. And to be honest with you, I think my initial presentation was pretty unprepared to push forward what I'm looking to achieve here. So I'm looking forward to this opportunity to kind of explain my situation, what I'm hoping to do.
Okay. We can see the plan. So we have a fairly good representation of your proposal. Did you want to make any verbal comments regarding that, or is?
Yeah, maybe just to fill in some of the blanks from my first go around at this. If you could go back to, I think it was the first slide that had the highlighted, the number 4. Yeah, so you can see kind of a top-down elevation view of the existing dwelling. And I don't think I know I wasn't very clear in the first go at this. Essentially, the driveway obviously is for parking, but also there's points of access to both the studio, to the bluestone patio and access to the house, and then also to a door well. And I've kind of highlighted those.
Okay.
It just, I hope, initially my application was looking at, and I took recommendations from my landscaper who suggested kind of a herringbone brick pattern, which I submitted. I didn't really detail the plantings, which I hope I've done here. And that was just a suggestion. The herringbone was a way to, I guess, be more stable with cars parked on it. And I know that was a comment that came from the board about, that it kind of competes with the sidewalk. And obviously I'm happy to do whatever brick pattern, is fitting for sure.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Lucy, go ahead.
Yes, Kathy, if you could pull up the 2 photographs I just emailed you. My question is, in one of the photographs, it's from the street side to the left of the house. Currently in the driveway are a significant pile of stones.
Yep.
And is a retaining wall going to the left of your property line? Is that what's happening there?
Yeah, those stones actually were moved. They were around back in an old format. And rather than get rid of them, we thought possibly to repurpose them. Number 15 Union, we kind of share that common little peninsula between the 2 driveways.
Yeah.
And theirs has kind of like I guess you could call it a retaining wall of sorts of stone, just kind of packed against a planting bed.
And are you going to be putting in a stone wall there? It looks like it, because there is a grade change. It's looked like you would need something to retain the soil for your plantings.
Correct.
Lucy,
Okay. Kathy, did you get those photographs?
I did not. Can you screen share? You should be.
I don't know how to do it. Anyway,
Okay.
I don't know why, because it's confirmed that you sent. Anyway, there is a big pile of stones there. And
I found them there.
Okay.
I
And
apologize.
No, I don't see the stone retaining wall identified on the drawing.
well,
So,
that was my question, Mickey.
right. So John, if you're proposing to build a stone retaining wall, we need to know about it.
Okay. I guess I didn't really much
See
think.
right there, you can see.
Yeah. What's interesting, and I wish I had blown up that photo, if you could go back to that. The previous elevation on this property, there was a lot more material there, and there was a large stone retaining wall between running parallel to Union Street, kind of where the studio sits now.
Yep.
The elevation of the two driveways actually is very similar now than it ever was. And I think they had those stones there because, at least my neighbor did at 15, because they were using them to retain material there. But like I said, I'm open to suggestions. If you would rather have the plantings at grade, I'm fine to do that. Or, maybe even see if the neighbor, I know there's a new owner of that property, to see if they'd like to, do something in conjunction. So it kind of looks like it all fits.
No, my point was more that if you're going to use those stones, and they are good looking stones, that they have to be on a plan and approved.
Okay.
And then on the other photograph that I sent Kathy, on the other side of the house is it's not quite wide enough for a driveway, but there is a section that's probably, oops, you can see there's a bunch of pea gravel there. You do have a lot of different materials going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering what the purpose of that was and why that isn't landscaped.
No, my landscaper, that was basically in process to figure out what was going to be done with the alleyway, of which I own about all of it, but about a foot. There were the stones are in the driveway. Some of them were in that alleyway. And every time it rained, there would probably be about a yard of sand out in the road and on the driveway or on the sidewalk. And it was something I couldn't do anything to retain it. So this was kind of just a plan, like, what can we do right now to mitigate this issue of washout? So he took some of the cobbles there along the brick and said, we'll just, gravel it for now. And I hadn't really, thought beyond the driveway at this point.
Okay, my comment is when I saw that is you've got a lot of different materials there.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it's on the application, but you do have a screening problem with that tank.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so you're bringing up some interesting issues, Lucy. And so obviously, John, we need to see sort of an overall plan on the property to really judge one side versus the other. We really would like to see what's going on both sides.
Okay.
So it sounds like you're not intending to keep that pea gravel there, probably just as well. So we need to know at some point what you're proposing to do with that side.
I mean, I'd like to put back which was there, which the cobblestones. They ran, right up between the two properties.
Was it a driveway?
Nope. There's no curb cut or anything. It was just, kind of an alleyway, I guess. But I'd be open to suggestions. Like, to be honest with you, so I have no grass right now, and my intention is to not have any grass. Would you make any suggestions of what to do in the alleyway?
I would suggest grass. I know you don't want it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is? It
I mean-
becomes, it's not environmentally friendly, it becomes a maintenance issue with weed, seed, feed, mow, blow. And it's something that, like I said, to have, 100.
You can
square
find
feet
a
of space.
ground cover that is not in,
Yeah, there's other ground covers like ivy or pachysandra or something like
I
that.
mean, then I'd
something
be
that's
happy
not
to-
invasive and doesn't need much.
Maybe that's a good alternative. Pachysandra, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think you ought to talk to your landscaper for a recommendation.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Okay, back to the driveway side. Anybody else want to chime in here?
Yeah, may I, Mickey?
Go
I
ahead,
just have
Mickey.
one. I think it's a lot of paving. It's a lot of brick.
Yep.
And I just think it makes it look like a giant parking lot, which is not appropriate. And then you got the brick, and then you've got the stacked stone or whatever to the foundation that's also the retaining wall. Then you have the other stairs. So there's a lot of, like Lucy said, a lot of different materials going on. I'd like to see the driveway reduced.
Okay.
If you can go to some attached photos, I think like 9, let's see. So the one with the green wall there is, that's 23 Union. And maybe you could just scroll down. I was using this as an example of the cobbles. The one with the, maybe go down one, yeah, the one with the Range Rover there. That's at 40 Union. And I'm not looking to do any more brick than what a bunch of my neighbors have. If you go
And I
down,
think the issue, if I might interrupt, is also that we don't know if any of those things were ever actually approved or people just did them.
okay,
Yeah, we can't control what's already there, but on new proposals, we can try to make it a little bit more in keeping with what we feel is appropriate.
right. And then there's 2, I don't know if Kadeem received the photos, but is there any below? No, I think that was it. There was one both at 18 Union, which is right across the street, that has 2+ cars of parking all brick, as well as 20 Union has probably four parking wide for brick. And I'm just, I know from the first meeting here, there was discussion that, seashells were more in keeping with the neighborhood. And I actually did an inventory from Francis Street to the end of Union, and more than 50% of the houses have brick driveways.
Okay.
And I have to add that I drive up that road or street a lot, and it's kind of a shame of all this bricked over parking on that street, especially on the left-hand side. And as Jason said, we don't know if those were approved.
Right.
I think that some of these examples that you have are excessively wide.
I guess my feeling on this, if I may chime in here, is that looking at the plan, I think, ideally, you're getting the message that we're trying to reduce the amount of brick. And clearly, you're trying to park 2 cars here.
Definitely, yeah.
But if you could really limit the surface of the brick to literally just the car spaces and nothing beyond it. And I know you need your pathways to the left and the right, but right on the street, if you could, the narrower the amount of brick, the better, the happier everybody's going to be. It looks like you've got just especially on the right-hand side that I can see, a few feet of brick, you could probably, because you're not going to drive there, so if you can sort of limit the brick to where the driving surfaces will be, that would be an improvement.
Well, can I ask you a question? So that initial slide that showed the point of access of getting to the basement or the door well to the lower level, and then the stairs that go up to the patio in the back of the house, the garage doors and the side door. So I'm kind of competing with all of these spaces that I need access to. If we're trying to limit the number of materials, what do you suggest I use for materials?
That's, what I would suggest is leaving those, if you brick, or maybe, you could change the material to stepping stones or something, but you need hard surfacing at those points in the back of the lot, not up close to the street. So you could narrow the brick at the Union Street side and just have feeders going off to the back areas that you need the access to. I guess that would be my suggestion. And I think actually changing the material to stone or, something else rather than just a big monolithic area of brick would be an improvement.
Well, that was the thought of putting cobbles into the, to kind of break it up, like,
Yep.
hey, there's parking over top of the cobbles.
Yep.
Kind of like that photo 10 you have there.
Yeah, and I think that helps a little bit, but it's still a pretty wide, left to right, fair amount of brick. Angus, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. Pretty much everything that I was going to suggest has been said, and that is narrowing what you're actually bringing all the way out to Union Street. and having feeders off the backside to access all the points of entry that are of concern. You could, start that at 4 feet back from the garage, and feed all those different areas. And I think because of building in this location with the raised elevation, you have a raised brick foundation, you have a raised stone foundation. There's the, blocks of solid stone for the steps, and then all this brick. I think it's overwhelmingly hardscaped. And so to naturalize as much of that as possible, I think is going to be a positive thing. And on the north side of the house as well, either terracing or just having the slope, but some sort of evergreen, non-invasive vine that your landscaper can come up with. I thought the Pachysandra was a great suggestion, but something back there that's just green that you don't have to cut and mow and blow and do all that business with. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Angus. All right, John, you getting the message?
I am. Can I ask a question? I find that the seashells that I see, some of, end up, there are a lot of them, but they end up in the road, they stick in your tires, they're not pleasant to walk on. What about a combination of brick and maybe like an oil and stone type of blended material?
Say that again?
Are you familiar with oil and stone?
Probably not.
No.
It's like, it's almost like a packed, how would I call it? It's not blacktop, don't get me wrong. But it's almost like a processed material that's compacted. Then there's actually an oil sprayed onto it and little tiny pebbles that are kind of rolled over it.
If you can
It
find,
doesn't stick in your tires. It doesn't get kicked out in the road like the seashell. The look is kind of similar to a seashell, but it's tiny little pea stones.
yeah, I guess we'd have to see examples of it. If you can find examples in the town area that have been successful, that would help the argument. But it's sounding a little unusual to me.
Yeah. Let me ask a question. With I'm just looking at pending summer HDC application. Obviously, I've got to go back at this in some fashion. I've got a huge mud problem, puddles all over my driveway. What do I do in the interim that will allow me to use the driveway without any approval at this point, besides just parking in the dirt?
No, we can't help the weather.
Well, it has nothing to do with the weather. I mean, it's the way this driveway was graded out was to accommodate, either some kind of infill of something, brick or shell or gravel or who knows what. But between now and any kind of approval, it's be honest with you, it's a disaster.
Yeah, and that sounds unfortunate, but John, I don't think we can help you with that at the moment.
I mean, can I go ahead and bring gravel in and just make it so it's not a muddy mess?
If that's a temporary solution until you get your approval, I don't think anybody's going to care that much as long as you put down something eventually that will have been approved.
Okay. And just going to answer, I know it came up about the varied materials. The HDC, there was a gentleman there that specifically wanted marble stairs, or excuse me, granite stairs between the two structures. Didn't want bluestone, wanted something that looked kind of more natural.
Yeah.
And that style of stone is very common around all of Nantucket. It's kind of a colonial bluestone that's stacked like a ledge stone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I think you're getting where we're going with this, and I think we're going to have to move on to the next one. So I appreciate you attending and giving feedback.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So after that, we have 10 Union fence. Oh yeah. Did we look at this one already? I think we
Yes, last week.
I thought so.
Just for your clarification, I had Joe clean up the site plan. So I just wanted you guys to look at it real quick.
Okay, the site plan does look different.
Yeah, it's a little vague, I felt.
Yeah. I don't think we had any concerns with this one. Does anybody have any comments? Yeah.
No, I like that fencing.
All right, so I'm gonna say no concerns and we'll move on to the next.
Okay.
31 Woodbury.
Mickey, I did send a photograph in of this too.
Oh, good. Um,
It's keeping me on my toes today, you guys.
you're doing a good job.
Oh, not as quick as Holly is on this.
You're there. Any thoughts? I didn't really have any real problems. I thought it was a little too wide, but I didn't have any serious problems with this. Lucy?
Well, my question was, what was the measurements of the original roof walk? And then I did submit a photograph because the photograph of that was submitted with the application does not show the chimney. And the photograph I just sent shows you front on where that chimney is.
Okay.
Do you all see that?
Yeah, they'll be buried in the roof block, it looks like.
No, they're removing the chimney, I believe, Mickey.
Remove chimney, you're right.
Do you see it?
I do now. Yeah. The clouding has a note saying remove chimney.
Oh, hang on.
Well, if they're removing the chimney, what do they need a roof walk for?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not that it's a historic house, but
Is that the,
that's the whole point of having a roof walk.
Okay,
And
what
I think they also wanted natural to weather too.
okay. And they're showing a full-on skirt board, it looks like. I didn't think about that too much.
Mr. Chair, I have one comment. I think it does seem wide, or, the straddle across the gable, I think should be more like 8 feet instead of 10 feet, and that would make the skirt, reduce the length of the skirt.
Yeah, I was gonna say 8 feet also. I think that's a fairly common width. 10 feet is to me too wide. And it would eliminate that middle post on the gable end view, hopefully. What about the
Do you
skirt?
want them to reduce it?
Jason?
Is it
What do you-
board? Well, I'm never a fan of skirts, but on roof walks. But I also was questioning the length of it when you look at it from the front facade, just because it looks like it's sitting on top of the dormers. I'd rather see it pulled a little bit tighter, pulled back a little bit away from the dormers.
Got it.
I agree with Jason. The relation to the dormer seems awkward. But pulling it in beyond the cheek walls, I think makes sense.
Yep, me too. This is a pretty typical common or traditional looking house. And, I think in the past, like certainly downtown, they have shied away from approving skirts on roof walks downtown, and we're pretty close here. And it's the traditional federal Quaker style building. So I might suggest to not have a skirt around this one also. Anybody else agree with that?
There's one next door that
I do.
they have in their photo. And there are other ones on Woodbury.
So that'll be a tough sell. Some with, some without.
Yeah, but the house next to it is more of, is even more formal than their house is.
And does it have a skirt?
Is it the top photo that's their house with the door, is that the one we're talking about? Is that 31?
Yes.
So right next to it to the right, there's a roof walk with a skirt, but you're right. It is more elaborate. There's more of a corner column pilaster with details, and then the top, the railing is not simple. It's more of a cross thing.
It's a different style building, gable forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna add to my comments. I think it would be better without the skirt. Does anybody think it's better with a skirt? No? All right. So I've got, make it less wide, 8 feet, less length, pulled in from inward of the dormer edges, and remove the skirt. Anything else?
What about the color paint?
What does the application say?
Natural to weather.
The whole roof block, deck, and skirt. Yeah, natural weather. I'm fine with that. You good with that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels it. I think if it's natural to weather, my inclination is that it should be narrower or less wide.
Yeah, and we're saying that too. We all agree.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Okay, let's move on. To 9 Coffin Street. This,
This is a color change. I actually went it yesterday and I Googled Benjamin Moore Delmar blue to get you a better image for you all for the meeting, because you never know with scanning how it's going to actually come out.
yeah,
So this is it.
that's blue.
It's called Delmar blue.
It's green.
It's like French blue.
Is the house, the photograph of the house looks like it's painted. Is that just natural weather?
Yeah, you're right. It does, doesn't it?
I didn't go down there.
I don't think this is going to be terribly visible. I didn't really care what they think before. It's back in the driveway, right? Maybe public, even a public right of way. Does anybody have any concerns with this?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I don't have any concerns. I think it is a public right of way though.
Right.
I'll
Well, it's
confirm
flash
with the.
For me, but I think you're right. It's not going to be seen.
I'll confirm if those shingles are actually gray or blue.
I think I think they're close to that color. It's like a gray blue. I know
Oh,
it doesn't
yeah.
really help any. I think isn't that like called the rabbit Warren, the rabbit? I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't think you'll see it though.
So this 48 Wall Street is actually a, I'll show you real quickly. It's from a result of a failed inspection, and I'm waiting on the chair to resolve this, but just wanted to know what your thoughts were.
So it looks like they built the shed without a window. Now they're trying to get rid of it.
Exactly, yes. So that's what that's about. So they never put the window in. So they're putting the revision in.
Isn't there another photograph too?
Hey, Mickey, I'm here.
Oh, Rob? Is that
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I lost track.
That's
So, yeah, this got built without the window in there, and they just called or actually Kathy picked up on it and called that to our attention. Okay, so I don't know if the owner came by and asked for more storage along that wall, but anyway, it's 5 feet from the property line, plus the angle of the line. There's a privet down there. It's certainly not the prominent face to the street by any means. This faces the street, of course, so. Yeah, that's where the window was supposed to be. It's shown in the drawings. It shows what was approved, and what we would like to do is just make that a blank wall.
You know, if this were sort of a normal height shed, I'd probably say I don't really care, but because of the height, it's really more of an exaggerated amount of shingles. I think the window does help it.
Well, that window where Kathy has the red circle drawn, it's supposed to be lower than that. It's supposed to be down with the door height.
Yeah, I can see on the drawing.
Yeah, it's probably a drawing, my fault, so.
Because the drawing doesn't really look, well, I don't know, like the elevation, the elevation looks like a really tall wall, and the side view of the building there on the drawing with the window, and it doesn't look as tall as it seems to be built as.
Well, yeah, I think they, well,
Anyway, anybody have any concerns, Lucy?
Yeah, I do. When I went down there, and I think actually I shown Holly a photograph of this house before. The meters right to the left of the steps to the front door is unfortunate. Is there anything that can be boxed in?
Sure, we could look at that. I'll ask him to look at that.
I just have a problem. I just think it's unfortunate. People spend gobs of money and this stuff is going to be right in your face.
You know, I don't, yeah, I don't know why they chose to put the meter there. It wasn't my call. I wasn't part of the supervision here, so, but whatever. I'm here now.
Yeah, maybe Rob, if you could just suggest they box it in.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
Jason, so while the inside of the structure is not supposed to drive the outside of the structure, is there something on the inside wall there that is in the way? Like, call me crazy. What if there was some kind of like wooden little batten pretend hatch put on the side? Would that be better or not?
You mean on the shed?
Yeah.
How about a trellis and grow some roses on that?
That was going to be my suggestion. It gives a reason for there being a big open expanse of, you know.
I mean, it's just so
untreated wall.
tall.
I've never been in there.
But the elevations, Vicky, I think you were getting at this. The elevation in the drawing looks to be much more horizontal and the actual is vertical. And actually the gable in view looks higher than it does in the eve view.
So is it the correct height?
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be no more than 16 feet, which I'm sure the surveyor is certified.
Yeah, it may just be deceiving. So I'm hearing a suggestion for maybe just going with lattice instead of the window. Would that be acceptable to the rest of us?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think it gives a
I
reason
mean,
for
just
there
break up the space.
not being windows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be great there.
Good.
That's a great suggestion, you guys.
Love it. Okay. Thanks, Rob. I think we'll do that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. All right. 118 Main. Ted. Is this also you, Rob?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is it a shower or a shed?
No, it's a shower.
Okay. Anybody have any concerns with this one? Kind of near the back of the property,
It's way back by that big tree.
and it's a fence, shower fence. Any concerns?
It's right. You can see it from Bloom.
That's- Yeah, pick up that picture. It's way back in the right-hand corner near where the cursor, yeah, exactly right there.
I don't have any concerns.
I don't either.
I'm fine.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Do that one. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye.
And 20 something Pleasant. 28 Pleasant. Color change. Collaborative. building.
So this one, he wants a white clapboard and a gray door.
Do you know the date of this house?
1985.
Okay.
It's a new house. Any comments on this?
From the board or the applicant?
How about either? I'll take anything.
I think the gray is so much more interesting. In general. Yeah, I think there's so much white everywhere else in those white trim that
Mhm.
I'd rather, I kind of like, I think the what's there now is charming. Um,
Yeah,
So if the clapboard went to white, like what happens to the trim? I don't think we want to have white and white.
No. Can you keep the green clapboard and do a different color front door, like green, dark green, Essex green or something like that? This is so visible when you come down the hill from the mill. You don't hit your brakes, you're gonna hit the house. It's
I,
right there.
I'm in a total agreement. I think white is, this is a pretty early style building, and I think white would have been almost unheard of, especially white trim and no shutters and nothing else to you know reduce the whole sense of it. So I think it's much better off with a different color surface than white, and gray looks good to me. Lucy?
I'm good with the gray. I like it the way it is. I mean, if they want to change the color of the front door,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, we were trying to do both. White clapboard and Nantucket gray door.
I'm not sure anybody on, do we have any doors that are Nantucket gray? I can't even think
That's
of a
kind
house
of
that has
rare.
a gray front door, yeah.
There's a significant number of houses on the street with the white clapboard.
I think those photos would probably be helpful.
Yeah, definitely helpful.
I
Yeah, that's
apologize.
like that German siding.
I have
I
about 5 or 6 photos in there.
Sorry, I had the wrong,
Yeah.
the wrong PDF in the file. So these are the ones that he submitted for the meeting.
Good.
Well, some of them are historic, some of them are not. I don't know, the Grimes house is probably
Yeah, I think it's a different ballgame.
20th century, yeah.
The house.
And this house is an infill house.
Yeah, these are all different style houses, and many have shutters to mitigate the just white surface area. I'm going to stick with my comments about preferring it gray rather than white. I just don't see that as being a positive here. Anybody else?
I agree with you.
Okay. And this is not a approval or disapproval, it's a recommendation for the board. Looks like that's what you're gonna get. All right, I guess we'll move on.
Are we better off adding shutters?
Well, are you still there? I think shutters would help, like that. I can't say that I'm still going to like it, but my only comment about the shutters is that it would help. So, anybody
I
else?
think this example at 26 Orange is very unusual.
Yeah, not particularly. I think the house is almost too narrow. The front of it is almost too narrow for shutters. I think the shutters, it's going to look like shutters. You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be too much.
Yeah, like the
front of it is not
proportions and the
that.
colors and everything seem pretty perfect right now.
Yeah, I don't like the 2 downstairs windows. There's no way it would have to be like 1. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's enough room for 2, even above it.
It's going to be crowded.
I mean, it's kind of a modest.
Right. It's good. It could be a white house with white trim, white sash, white fence, white front entry. I mean, it's going to be overwhelmingly. It's going to look like the wedding cake house. It's going to be way too much. It's too much white. And then if you did the gray front door, which is not typical, it all just becomes this kind of just, I don't know.
Oddity.
And also just the same, it's just going to be, not that I want things to scream, but it's just going to be very monotone and just kind of,
Yeah. I agree. I think we're all thinking the same thing on this one. So thank you for attending, and we'll make our recommendation to the HDC board and move on. So next, last one, 41 Westchester. Chimney rebuild, Nancy Martin's house. Couldn't tell if this is an existing rear chimney. And are they just lowering it? Take 4 feet off the height. This didn't bother me. Looks kind of tall. Looks kind of new also, but the color just looks like
An age for the L.
maybe not.
I feel like we've seen this already.
I don't remember anybody.
Is there an age for the L?
I don't remember seeing it, but it does seem awkward and unnecessarily high.
Me too. Lucy?
I didn't have a problem with it.
Me either. No concerns?
They're just taking off 4 feet, but keeping the chimney.
Yes.
That's fine.
No concerns.
Okey-doke. That's all we got. Alrighty. I think we're good. We have a motion to adjourn?
You need a motion to approve the comments first.
No. Yeah, how about a motion for the comment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Lucy?
Aye.
Angus,
Aye.
Tom and I.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Lucy, Angus, Jason?
Aye.
Okay. That's
Aye. 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 Aye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nikki.
Kathy.
Thanks,
Thank
Kathy.
you guys so much. It's
Bye,
nice seeing everybody.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.